The Boy from Yesterday, Chapter 13, The Hospital. "How far is it to the place where you have the telephone, miss?" Tom said. Laurel looked at him with a combination frown and smile. Not very far. It's right here," she said, opening the strings of her antique purse and spilling out her iPhone, sliding her finger across the screen and tapping in her 4-digit password. Tom stared at Laurel's action, having no idea what she was doing. "What should I tell them?" Laurel asked. Do you need an ambulance? It's not far. We could walk if you're able to. I just wasn't sure if you could." Tom nodded. "I can walk, miss. You mean to the doctor's house?" Now it was Laurel's turn to look at Tom. "I don't know any doctors here who have home offices. I was thinking of the new urgent care center at the hospital. You might need an x-ray or something." Tom stared at her blankly. Where would you find a doctor if not at his home? Laurel looked back equally blankly, then cocked her head and squinted, but still with a slight smile, and said, "Tom, where are you from? It sounds like they do doctors differently there." Tom shrugged. "Yes, I'm not from around here. I just came to visit. I reckon I'm still getting used to the way they do things here." "But where are you from?" Laurel said, this time getting a little suspicious. "You're not from Chesterfield, I take it?" Tom was taken aback a bit. With everything so strange around him, it was hard to remember he was still in Chesterfield. "You see, I'm from a small farm town in, Canada. Yeah, up north some, in Canada," he said, smiling at what he thought was his own cleverness. "Of course," Laurel said. "I've heard about that in class. I'm pre-med here at CU, and I've heard they have nationalized medicine in Canada. We don't learn much about that here. I think they do that on purpose so that we don't want the same system here as you have there. Although some say to try your system and that Obamacare is the same thing as ours, but..." She stopped, seeing that Tom was not really paying attention. Tom didn't understand what she was saying, but played along. "I suppose so," said Tom, just nodding and smiling. "You'll have to show me the difference, miss." "You're so polite. The whole miss thing. Does everyone do that in Canada?" Laurel said, relaxing more and smiling back at Tom's smile. "I suppose the polite gentleman..." "Yes, miss," Tom said. "Well, it's a welcome change if you ask me," Laurel said, standing up and extending her hand to help Tom up. "The chivalry is appreciated. You okay to make the walk? It's only a few blocks. I can help explain you're not from here and get you checked out in the ER. You don't need insurance in the urgent care section here. It's a city service they started last year. It was actually designed as part of university health to help treat STDs, and then they expanded to cover everything. Kind of a perk at school. Although sometimes there can be a wait, which shows you how many of the STDs there are around this campus," Laurel laughed. She texted Emily that she was taking a friend to the UC clinic back soon, and then led the way for Tom, who followed closely. The walk, the short few blocks to the urgent care clinic, was just on the edge of the Chesterfield University campus. It was new-looking, one-story, with a big sliding glass door in front, in part of a complex of several buildings in that area for social services, adjacent to the several wings of Jefferson Manor, an assisted living and nursing home for the aged, a Montessori school for children, and a veterans center. Laurel led Tom into the building and followed some wall signs to the urgent care waiting room. Tom kept staring at everything around him, but also following Laurel's lead. He marveled at the automatic glass doors that opened by themselves when they entered the building, the buzz of the fluorescent lights in the ceiling, the linoleum tile floor that they walked on, and the bright metal on the wheelchair of a young man rolling by in camouflage pants and a white t-shirt, his right leg extended out, covered in a clean white cast, the blonde wood paneling on the walls, the color photographs on the wall that chronicled the building's opening. The sounds dazzled Tom, too. A little circle on the ceiling had a speaker in it, which called, "Dr. Northrup to nurses station 4, please. Dr. Northrup, nurses 4. Tom thought, nurses for what? And wondered if this Dr. Northrup was anything like Dr. Hurd. Laurel explained to the desk nurse about Tom being from out of town and just kept saying, "I don't know," to her questions, which made the nurse annoyed, but Laurel explained that Tom couldn't answer because of his injury. When the nurse told them to take a seat and wait, Laurel turned to find Tom mesmerized by the TV that was on, mounted on a bracket near the ceiling of the room. Laurel saw Tom's eyes transfixed on the screen while he was standing frozen in the middle of the aisle near the desk. He had taken his hat off inside and held it out in front of him, motionless like a statue. Laurel came close and gently touched his shoulder and looked down briefly to notice Tom's odd scent, like he hadn't showered lately but also smelled something like lavender in his hair. Odd Canadian custom, I guess, Laurel thought to herself, but was more concerned with Tom's fixation on the TV screen, which was running a rerun of The Big Bang Theory. "Tom," Laurel said as she touched his shoulder to break him from his trance. Tom startled and turned to Laurel. "Yes, ma'am? We'd better sit down. We have to wait our turn. The nurse said it would be a few minutes to be seen." Tom had already turned back to the TV screen. Laurel took him toward a set of seats near the TV screen. "Come along over here so we're out of the way of the desk. We can still see the screen from over here." She guided him as they sat down, Tom not taking his eyes off the screen, even where to sit down. "Do you not have cable in your town?" Tom looked back at Laurel, realizing he was drawing attention to himself by looking at the screen so much. But he couldn't help it. We don't have one of those machines," Tom said. "I guess we are behind the times," Tom shrugged. Laurel laughed and made a little face. Yeah, by about 60 years, I'd say." "What is that?" Tom asked, knowing he might be exposing himself by asking that. It's a TV," said Laurel, trying not to sound condescending. "Maybe you haven't seen that kind. It's a flat screen in high def." Tom nodded, not understanding. So Laurel continued. "High def is maybe, I don't know, 10 years old? I forget. It really shows the actors' faces, though. It's almost like you can—" Laurel paused, feeling funny that she would have to explain this. She wondered more if Tom had amnesia from his head injury. "It's almost like you could touch them." "But who are those people? It sounds like they're in a theater. I hear people laughing at them. How do they get people in a little box? Are they midgets? What are they?" Tom asked. Laurel looked concerned, this time really thinking Tom's head injury was serious. She just managed to say, "I can explain that later. How are you feeling? It shouldn't be too long now." Tom felt embarrassed again and also noticed how often he was feeling this way. He paused, trusting Laurel a little bit more by now. He never really forgot this whole time, but he remembered anew why he was here in this new place and time and wondered if he could trust Laurel. He decided to be bold, feeling that he had no time to lose. "I feel all right, miss," Tom said. "But, miss," he said, as Laurel continued to look at him and nodded, "may I tell you something?" Laurel became almost paternal now. "Yeah? It's okay. You can tell me. I want to help." "I'm here to save a friend," Tom said. "I came from this other town place, and my friend was sick, where I come from. He needs a medicine we don't have there. I was hoping to find it here." "What's he sick from?" Laurel said. "I thought the Canadian system had all the same meds, even cheaper. What happened?" Tom didn't fully understand, but he continued anyway. "My friend Sam, see, he fell off his horse, that we call Blitzen, 'cause of this streak here down his nose like a lightning bolt," Tom said, as he gestured with his finger tracing his nose. "But that's not important, his name. Well, the horse's name. But Sam, see, he fell and he cut his leg open and it bled something awful, see, and now it's all swollen like. And our doctor, Dr. Hurd, our town doctor, he couldn't quite see his way to helping him. And then this my Mr. Zeller, he gave me this directions to come here. And then we thought maybe the medicine Sam needs might be here. I guess that's it." Laurel nodded, concerned, but still trying to understand what Tom was saying. "So your town only has one doctor?" she said. "It must be a very small town, much smaller than Chesterfield, that's for sure, and even this isn't big by any means. Did he have a fever? Infection?" Tom nodded more enthusiastically, as he thought Laurel was beginning to understand him despite all their differences. "Yes, miss, and he wasn't quite awake. He was hurting a lot, too." Laurel looked more concerned. "Pain, swelling, fever, after hurting his leg and bleeding? How did it cut open?" "Oh, on a rock. A big, sharp piece of granite jutting out the dirt just right where he landed after Blitzen got all spooked and threw him like a rag doll a good 10 yards, Tom said, trying to clarify with details that would make Laurel understand. But then his face fell and he shook his head. What's wrong? Laurel said. I got no right expecting women folk to know this. You're not a doctor. Women folk? Laurel said, sounding annoyed. What's that supposed to mean? Well, woman's never been a doctor, Tom said. Wait a minute, Laurel said, holding up her hand in a stop sign. There are many women doctors throughout history, and some even here at this clinic. That sounds really sexist. Where in Canada are you from? It sounds like prehistoric days, not the 21st century. Tom gulped on hearing that. He realized he had to backtrack, that somehow he had offended what was so far his only friend in this place. Oh, I beg your pardon, miss. I suppose I don't realize how behind the times we are. Of course, the women folk do all kinds of things here in Chesterfield. But what is it? The name of your place? Is it Amish or something? It does sound behind the times, as you say, Laurel said. Tom had to make up something. Fieldchester. It's Fieldchester. So small I reckon you never heard of it. We keep a low profile to prevent too many settlers coming in. Tom continued, trying to find out more from Laurel. I wanted to come here to see if I can find some medicine to help Sam. That's my friend. Laurel nodded. Fieldchester. I see. I've never heard of it, but maybe that's because they don't advertise tourism. She thought some more and decided to play along. Well, that's nice of you to try and help your friend, but couldn't you just take Sam by ambulance or even helicopter him to another clinic in another town? Or have a specialist come? It doesn't even sound that complicated. It sounds like he's got a staph infection in his leg from landing in the dirt and the wound getting infected. Maybe he just needs an antibiotic. Almost any broad-spectrum one would help. Or maybe IV antibiotics, vancomycin, something like that. We're still learning about those in my Intro to Medicine course. I'm just a freshman yet, so we get into pathologies later. But I've had lots of those as a kid. I cut my finger on a rusty fence once, and I had antibiotics for strep throat. It's so common. I'm surprised your Canadian system can't handle that. Doesn't sound like very good doctors. That should really be easy for them. One would think, Tom said, laughing along nervously. Of course. So behind the times, I guess. He looked down, thinking, and wasn't quite sure how to push the idea, but did anyway. And how would you go about getting something like that? Tom asked. Well, Laurel said, all of that is by prescription here. You can't just get it at the store. My gran has some left over at the house, I think. She has this big collection of meds she hasn't even finished, even though you're supposed to finish an antibiotic so you really flush out the infection. Even after you're feeling better, you're supposed to finish the bottle. They all say that so the infection doesn't come back or you develop resistance to it. You're supposed to take them as prescribed, but I don't think Gran ever does. They're all in this box in the hall closet upstairs. It just sits there. She doesn't have any use for it now. If she got sick, she'd just get another prescription for the collection. I don't know why she fills them if she's not going to use them. She just gets better without them, I guess. She paused and looked at Tom's face and his pleading eyes. He was a handsome guy, she thought. So sincere in his almost innocence and naivete, like a child or a hillbilly. He must have led a sheltered life. She then thought of Emily, who was still at the park grounds with TJ and Peter, and what Emily would have thought. Elle, think, you're taking in strays again. You don't know this guy, Laurel reminded herself to approach with caution. Look, she said, I'd like to help you, but I really don't know you. I think we better see what they say here. I want to make sure you're okay. Tom nodded. I'd be much obliged if I may trouble you for some of those, then paused, looking down again. But I don't have much money to pay you for them. Just, he reached in his pocket and pulled out some of the petty cash he'd stuffed in his pocket from the safe at the store just before he left. Just this, really, a couple of dollars. Laurel looked at the cash, a couple of bills and some coins, and was fascinated by what he held out in his hand. What is this? She said, reaching out and taking one of the bills, holding it up. This looks like antique money. Where did you get this? Tom realized how foolish he had been, expecting money to look the same now as in his time. Oh, Tom said, that's what I mean. Yes, Antique money. That's worth more in these times, I suppose, huh? See, that would mean it's worth more because it's an antique, sentimental value and all that. Laurel then noticed Tom's ring. What was at first a casual look became a more intense stare. She was captivated by it. The intricacy of the design and the head of the dragon with its ruby-jeweled eye. Wow, what is that? Laurel said, gently taking Tom's left hand to see the ring more closely. The eye of the dragon gently glowed, what she thought was just the jewel catching the light from the fluorescent panel above them. That is gorgeous. Tom gently pulled his hand away, almost trying to hide the ring from inspection. It's a gift from a friend, a family friend, Tom said, suddenly worried that Laurel might ask for the ring as payment for the medicine, which he couldn't offer and still get home to his time, even if he could find the magic words to the ring. Laurel continued, It's really beautiful. I guess they make good jewelry up there in Canada. Who knew? She looked back to the cash and gave Tom back the antique dollar bill. It's okay, really. If I have some spare at home, you can have it. It's just neat to see what currency looked like then. I've never seen that except online in one of my readings for American history, she said. Then she paused. My dad used to collect antique coins. He's really into that. He paused again, thinking of her dad and how much she missed him, knowing that he would be proud that she was helping this injured young man get some help. But why do you have antique American money and not regular Canadian money? Don't you need some for your trip here? Laurel said, a simple enough question that stumped Tom. He was about to try to answer when the nurse at the desk called, Flannery, Mr. Flannery, speaking loudly, even though no one else was in the waiting room. Your turn, Mr. Flannery. Step this way. Tom stood up and looked cautiously at Laurel, afraid to follow the nurse to the back rooms without her. It's okay, Laurel said. They'll just talk to you, maybe take an x-ray. You'll be fine. I'll be right here. Tom reluctantly followed the nurse, looking back to see where Laurel was situated, just beneath the TV screen and across from the window that overlooked a courtyard garden. As he followed the nurse through a door down the hall, Laurel picked up her phone to text Emily. Emily had texted back by now. Who you with? Hospital? ? Laurel texted, We'll be here longer. You don't know him. New in town. We'll explain later. Don't wait up, LOL. XO to TJNP. Laurel looked back up at the TV screen and wondered why anyone would think The Big Bang Theory was played by little people. Then she thought to herself, I really hope I never get a concussion.